So containerization, when you say containerization, is where Docker comes to the picture. And like Docker, there are other products like PCF has gotten one container, LXT, OpenVH, Rocket container, like that. There are different containers, right? Now, what is the difference between Docker and virtualization? Docker is a bit like a virtual machine. But unlike a virtual machine, rather than creating a whole operating system, Docker allows applications to use the same Linux kernel. So if you observe here, in the case of Docker, what happens is, we have host operating system. On that, we can have Docker containers. We have to install Docker kernel first. Then there are some Docker containers which will launch the Docker images. So if you see the difference here, in the virtual machines, there is a host on top of the guest operating system. But here, on the host operating system itself, we can run Docker, right? The purpose of, so advantage of this Docker is there is no extra operating system, right? So that's why the Docker image is very lightweight. Docker is not a virtualization technology, just understand, it is an application delivery technology. See, very important here. It is not virtualization actually. We cannot using Docker, we cannot create virtual machines. Virtual machine is created separately. Virtual machine, each virtual machine will have its own guest operating system. But Docker is all about not creating virtual machine. It is an application delivery technology. So what mean by application delivery technology? So this is my application. Here there's an application which has some libraries, right? Suppose you take Spring Boot application. That Spring Boot application itself has all the libraries dependencies. Plus to run Spring Boot, some JRE is required, right? So that Spring Boot and JRE, together we can make it one image and we can push into different environments, right? So here, your application plus runtime, for example, JRE, let us make it one Docker image. So that image can be created in development, actually, example, development system, and push that into staging or production. Now, advantage is, because it is not having any extra operating system, so the image size is very less compared with this image. Virtual image will have some extra operating system, guest operating system, so image size will be more. Guest OS itself will occupy around 600 MB minimum, right? But whereas here, the image size is very small, we can push with less time to different environments. So that is what application delivery technology. How do you deliver application from one environment to another environment? So that is where the container will come to the picture. But containers are not for creating virtual machines. Containers will be run on top of host operating system, as well as the containers can be run inside the virtual machine also here. That means in the real time, what happens, if you say cloud, they will have one mission, physical mission. They will have virtual machines. Inside the virtual machine, they install Docker. Because virtualization is very important, right? Because virtualization is where we can have different segments, right? Effectively, you can use the hardware. But instead of running virtual image inside the virtual machines, what we can do is, let virtual machines are created with guest operating system, everything. Let us have a Docker is installed in that, and we will push Docker images. See here? So there are two environments you can say, Docker running on host operating system, Docker running on virtual machines also. Suppose you see this diagram maybe. See here, this example you see here. So there is the physical machine, which has some hypervisor support. On top of that, there is our 3 virtual machines you can see here. In this virtual machine, there's a Docker is installed. See, this virtual machine has its own operating system, plus Docker is installed. Similarly here, it has its own operating system, Docker is installed. It has its own operating system, Docker is installed. Whereas another virtual machine, there is no Docker here. Now see the difference here. Whenever we push the application Docker image to any virtual machine, this Docker kernel, right, that will take the image and launch the container. See, Docker is the kernel here, right? Almost Docker was developed using a lightweight kernel called Linux kernel, right? Internally they use it. Now this is like a Docker daemon or kernel, anything. Whenever one image comes, when you push some image to Docker, Docker will launch that image inside one container actually. Container will provide runtime to that image. You know, image is just like a files, right? It contains some, I told you the application plus dependencies, some files, right? So to launch that image, there is a container. Internally, inside the container, the image will be launched. right? So what you understand from here, Docker can be run on host operating system, or Docker can be run inside the virtual machines. In the real time, if you see the cloud environment, there would be all virtual machines inside that. There will be Docker will be installed, right? So now the next step is, let us go to STS first. Okay, let me go to STS. In the STS, let us take one example. Say day one simple service, right? Day one simple service. So in the day one simple service, I will select pom.xml run as Maven install. Let me say Maven install. What Maven install will do here? Maven install will create one jar file will get created. Okay, see here. So it's getting launched now. Maven install. Yeah. Now what we are trying here is, normally how do you start Spring Boot application? We can go to source main Java, directly launch the application, right? But instead of that, when you say Maven install, you refresh the target, there will be one jar file you can see. Day one simple service.jar file, right? So let me go to the workspace. So Spring Boot, labs. Here I am using day one simple service, target. No, this not day one. No, this is used where actually I'm using this application, day one simple service. Okay. I think this is coming from REST Advanced, right? REST Advanced Labs, day one simple service, target. Can you see it? There's a jar file here. There are two jars you can observe here. One is jar original, second one is .jar. See the size difference here. .original is nothing but this .original is which contains actual normal jar file. It contains the classes and application.yaml file. Okay. But whereas this is specialized jar. So if you open this jar file, it contains boot.inf. Okay, let me do one thing. First, let me open this jar file. Actually, you see here, the original jar file contains what? Demo, web, controller, everything. Whatever the classes are there, that will be there in the jar file. Plus, we have application.property. Right? This is the original jar file. That's why the name is original jar. Now, this is specialized jar. Inside this, there is a boot.inf. Inside the boot.inf classes, you can see your application classes, application.property file. Similarly, lib, where you can see all the jar files of Spring here. Right? So this is Spring Boot application. We generated Maven install, we generated one jar file, which contains all the dependencies here. Similarly, in the main folder, you see, main root folder, you see, there's an org, Spring Framework, boot, loader, there are some classes are available here. See, jar launcher, war launcher, there are some jar files are there. You know, the purpose of this is, now this Spring Boot jar is self-contained. It can be started, executed from anywhere. That means, let me start a command prompt here. Say a command prompt. I'll type java-jar, right? Day one, simple service jar files here. This is executable jar file. When I say press enter here, automatically this jar file will be launched, right? So this jar file is started now here. So that is the main purpose of going for this here. Jar file is java-jar. Jar file we can launch it, right? Now the same jar file, whatever we created here, this jar file we can push into Docker. We can create a Docker image and push into Docker environment, right? So let us do one thing now. I'll just stop this. So I'll come back to the project here. Okay. So we will create one file here. I'll create one file. So those steps are already there in the documentation. Okay. Let me show you here. In the REST Advanced projects, extra folder, you can see there is a GitHub link, one file, right? In this file, see what is the lab one here? Add the below metadata in Docker file. So let me create one Docker file. Okay. So right click here, say new file, Docker file. Let me create here. So this is the file where we put Docker metadata. Any Docker related configuration will go to Docker file. So any application, Spring Boot application, you can have Docker file. Not only Spring Boot, you are using Python application, anything, the file name remains Docker file. Right? Inside this, let me put these entries. I'll just copy this. Here, I'll just copy this. But what is the name of the application here? In the target folder, I'll just take the name of the application. This is the name of the application, right? Okay. So I will change here. It is target day one simple service 001 snapshot, right? .jar. Now, if you observe here, so there are some 4 to 5 lines of entries here. First one is what? From OpenJDK. From, when you give from is nothing but we are referring to another image. OpenJDK is one image. I told you to run Java application, we require a JRE. So this example you are using OpenJDK. You can use Oracle JDK, anything, right? But where is this actually? Where is this image? There is one Docker has a Docker hub. So here there's a Docker hub. When you open Docker hub, like for example, you have a Maven repository, right? Maven has a local repository. Similar to that, Docker hub also contains local images, and Docker also we can have local images or images from Docker hub, right? This is centralized. If I type OpenJDK here, see, so it displays all the OpenJDK containers here, right? So say OpenJDK, you can say, if I say tags, click tags, you can see some OpenJDK containers here. Even version 16 also there, OpenJDK, right? So here when you say from this, first what it will do is, it will check whether in the local Docker repository, this image is there or not. If it is not there, it starts downloading from internet, right? So in my system, if I say Docker images, see once Docker is started, you type Docker images, it displays all the images. Here there's an OpenJDK 8 JDK Alpine. So already this image is there in my system set. This image is already there because in the previous training I executed this. So it will not download now, it will try to use it. If this image is not there, then it start downloading from the repository, right? In the Docker hub. Then we have given volume/temp. Normally, you know, whenever we use some jar files, we extract into some temporary folder, right? It will get extracted to temporary folder. Similarly, we have mentioned /temp, where to extract. And this is our jar file, day one simple service jar file, which we created using Maven install. That jar file, inside the Docker, we want to have it as a Docker image. We want it as an app.jar. Instead of having such a big name, we can just give a smaller name, actually, app.jar. That means this application will be added as app.jar. Then we can set some Java options, environment Java options, where you can give minimum memory, max memory. Okay, so all Java related configuration can be even garbage collection algorithm, GC algorithms, everything we can configure it, right? Then the main one is entry point, how to launch this particular application. Because I told you this image will be launched in the container, right? How to launch it? So here the command you say Java -jar app.jar. Like now here in the command prompt we started, right? Here I started the application like by giving, okay, Java -jar, the name of the application we gave. Similar to that, so there's an entry point, Java -jar app.jar, right? So now what we can do once this is created, let us create one Docker image here. So let me go to that location. So where is this file actually? Inside the projects, inside the labs, day one simple service, where we have the Docker file, right? Let me go to this location, open a command prompt. So if I say dir, you can see the Docker file here, right? There's a Docker file. Now we have to create the image. See, Docker file only contains the metadata, what is required. It requires JDK, then this jar file, and this is how we can launch it, that information, right? Now with this, we have to create a image. So for that, the steps are already given here. Say to create an image, Docker build dot hyphen tag. You can give some tag name here. Okay, tag name is nothing but the logical name, right, of the image. So here, let me copy this. Docker build dot. Dot means what? What is dot here? In the current path, it is going to check this file, Docker file. Okay, it will check for a Docker file. So Docker build dot. It will pick up this Docker file and create one image. Simple Docker, one image will get created. Okay, let me run this. You see what will happen here. See, it took around, for example, total. Okay, Docker took around some memory. But if you see from OpenJDK, it's already there. So it has not downloaded. It's already there, referring to that. Then created one volume temp. Add the file, Java options, everything, right? Now one image got created. If you want to check that Docker images, you see there is one Docker image, simple Docker. Because while creating the image, we are given the tag name as simple Docker, right? So that is what we got it here. Simple Docker. What is the size of this? Tell me. 149 MB. How much time when it got created? 23 seconds ago. 149 MB means, please here, 149 MB means actual jar file is size is 42 MB. See, the jar file size is 42 MB, right? Then OpenJDK image is having around 105 MB. So this 105 plus 42 put together, you are seeing 149 MB here. Now this image contains OpenJDK also completely, right? That's what we have to understand first. First, there is an OpenJDK is downloaded, then this image is created. After creating this image, if you want to even delete this image also, you can delete it. Because this is like a single image, like a coarse grain, which internally has all other images, also all dependencies, right? So this image got created now, simple Docker, right? So how to create an image? We have to give Docker build dot. Dot is nothing but it will look for the Docker file. Hyphen tag, you can give some name. Then if you want to launch it, I can use another commands here. Docker, say Docker run -p, right? So we have given the command use here. Docker run -p 48:8080-t simple Docker. You know, this simple Docker is a tag name which we created here. And this is a Spring Boot application. You know, this is a Spring Boot application. Runs in which port number? Actually, it is running on port number 8080. If I open the Spring Boot application, simple service, source main resources, application or property file, can you see here? The port number is 8080. But what we mentioned here, that 8080 is a port number where this application is running. It must be exposed to the outer world with 4 8s. This is called port forwarding. One of the security perspective, security advantage is instead of exposing 8080, I can even give 8080:8080. That means the application is running on 8080 and it is available to access to 8080. But for outer world, if you give a different port, so this way we can secure the application once again, right? So to access this application, we need to give localhost. Here I'll say localhost 4 8s. Now here I'm getting presentation tier business tier data. Now this application is running, right? I'm referring with 4 8s. Okay. If I refer with 8080, see here, so it is not able to access that application because it is available to outer world through 4 8s. Right? The application is available here. And one more interesting point is, let me see here. One more interesting point is, now this application is running, right? Docker run application is launched, right? If I say Control C here also, normally when you start Java application, when you say Control C, application will get terminated. But here when you say Control C, still this is running as a background process. This application will be running in background. For example, I can once again say refresh here. See, I'll get it. And we can issue a command called Docker PS. When you type Docker PS enter, now see here, Docker PS shows simple Docker launch, the application is started running actually. See, this application is running. Anytime if you want to stop this, we have to stop this process. Whatever process ID is there, we can use container ID and stop it. It's not that we have pressed Control C, application is terminated. Control C, we got a terminal, and this will be running as a background process. You can say Docker PS will give you all process ID, right? This is how we can run the application, right? So I'll say pause recording, resume recording, right? So how do you remove that image? Even you can say Docker images. So select that image, whichever image you want to remove. So there's a Docker RMI, give the image ID, simple Docker. Okay, otherwise you can give -F force. So images are removed actually. If it is, so here it is giving unable to remove repository because it is referring to simple Docker referred by something. Okay, then you can say Docker RMI simple Docker -F forceful. Now you say Docker images here. So that image got removed, right? So now the next step is there is search for Kubernetes. Just giving you some idea here. When you type Kubernetes, what is Kubernetes here? The Kubernetes is an open source container orchestration system for automating computer application deployment, scaling, and management. It is a container orchestration system. Just understand, this is very important. Container orchestration system. See, for example, okay, this Kubernetes is also known as K8s because K is the first character here. Then after that, 8 characters, 8, numeric number 8, and yes. It will become simple K8s, Kubernetes, right? It is a container orchestration, right? It was originally designed by Google and is now maintained by Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So what is the purpose of this? Let us understand what is the purpose of this. Suppose we have the Docker images. For example, here, see this. Here I said there are Dockers, right? There is one Docker in this virtual machine. Okay. Similarly, there is a Docker in another virtual machine. This Docker doesn't know anything about another Docker. Please understand. So Docker is like stateless, independent. First understand. But there is one more called like Kubernetes. There's a Docker Swarm. There's one more. Docker Swarm is nothing but once again like Kubernetes only. But Kubernetes is very popular now. So in the real time, this Docker doesn't know anything about another Docker. Assume that there are 100 virtual machines. Each virtual machine has a Docker. And if you want to orchestrate, that means you want to make stateful invocation. If all the Dockers information you want to gather and do some kind of provisioning, that is where Kubernetes comes to the picture. Because one Docker doesn't know anything about another Docker. To make it more orchestration, the Kubernetes will come to the picture, right? Okay, let me show you here. In the microservices, just observe this Kubernetes K8s image. So K8s image you can see here. Now, just observe this. Here, these are the nodes you can see. There's a node here, right? There are nodes. Node is like virtual machines. I'm just giving you some brief introduction to this one, actually, right? Because Kubernetes has once again a lot of terminology here. But time being, you can take node is like virtual machines. These are all virtual machines. Inside that, there is a pod. So pod is the simplest deployment, okay, in Kubernetes, right? So this is like a pod is a deployment unit. It's a smallest, not simplest, smallest deployment unit in the Kubernetes. So one pod can have one or more Docker containers here, one or more containers. That means 3 Docker containers together, we can call it as one pod here. Similarly, here 3 Docker containers will be one pod, right? Pod is the smallest deployment unit in Kubernetes. Now, what is happening here as per this slide? There is a node, it's a virtual machine, which has Docker, and there is a pod, which is a one or more Docker containers, right? And this Kubernetes has a master here. If you see there's a Kubernetes master, there's a master node, right? And these are the child nodes, you can say nodes. But inside the node, there is a kubelet, you can see kubelet. What this kubelet will do is, this kubelet will update information to the master. So suppose this kubelet says, okay, there is a pod with this many servers are running, this many containers are running. So that entire information will go to master. If master wants to deploy any application, launch any container, master will talk to kubelet, right? So this is like agent for your Kubernetes, right? Kubelet is like an agent which will communicate with master, right? Now, what is the advantage of this is, just to understand here, advantage is, suppose we have, okay, suppose there are different virtual machines here. There is different virtual machines here, okay? Here we have one virtual machine, there's one more virtual machine. Simple example, there are different virtual machines like this, right? Now, I have one application, for example, my app is one application. This application I want to launch in 5 instances, right? This is called scalability, you know the concept of scaling. This application we want to launch in 5 instances. My app, 5 instances. Here I said this is VM1, virtual machine 1. Similarly, we have VM2 here. Example, there's a VM2. So there's a different virtual machines here, VM3. Similarly, there's a VM4. Just understand, there's a VM4, right? And Docker is there in all the systems here. For example, here there's a Docker here. So there is a Docker. Similarly, all the missions we have a Docker here, right? Docker. I'll just put like Docker. Here there's a Docker. Now, when you want to launch these 5 instances, where to launch this? Tell me. Where to launch this? Whether these 5 instances we are going to launch in one virtual machine or multiple virtual machines. How do you decide it? This is where the Kubernetes will come to the picture, right? I'll just give you an idea of Kubernetes here. For example, K8. Yes. So this Kubernetes knows about all these virtual machines, right? In the Kubernetes terminology, I told you all virtual machines are like, these virtual machines like a node, right? And there is a kubelet, right? Here I said there's a kubelet. I'm just putting you, let me write kubelet here, right? Kubelet. Here also just kubelet. Here also there's a kubelet. Okay, kubelet. Now what will happen? This kubelet will give information to Kubernetes master. All the kubelets are going to give information, right, to the master, saying that this is what is happening here. Okay, so this is like here. I'll just put like master, just for understanding, right? This is the architecture of Kubernetes. Now what will happen? Whenever we want to launch 5 instances, first request comes to Kubernetes. Kubernetes master will say launch 5 instances. Now master knows that, okay, there are 4 virtual machines are there, and all the virtual machines, currently none of the virtual machine is launching any container. Example, none of the virtual machine, the Docker containers are not running. Example, all are having free memory, right? Now Kubernetes will provision it. Kubernetes says, okay, first instance I want to launch here. It says, okay, first it will have some kind of provisioning here. What Kubernetes will do is it will do some kind of provisioning. First it says, okay, in VM1, I launch 1 instance. VM2, launch 1 instance, second instance. VM3, launch 3rd instance. VM4, launch 4th instance. This is called, it is doing some kind of snapshot, preparing some snapshot, like provisioning, right? Then 4 missions are over. Once again, Kubernetes says, okay, in the virtual machine 2 itself, VM1 itself, let me launch 5th application also, 5 also, let me launch it. So it will have some calculation, right? Based on that, it says, okay, there are 4 virtual machines. That information has come from kubelet. Okay, out of 4 virtual machines, let me launch first one by one, like a round robin manner. And once again, it starts from, because 4 missions are 1 to 4 is done. Once again, in VM1, it says 5. Then it prepared this, and finally, this Kubernetes talked to kubelets. It says, VM1, kubelet of VM1 says, okay, you launch instances 1 and 5 here. You have to launch 1 and 5 instances. Here it says you launch 2 instances. Here you launch 3 instances. Here you launch instance 4. Right? Now see the advantage of this here. The Kubernetes is acting as a container orchestration because it knows about all the containers environment, everything. Any request first has to come to Kubernetes. Kubernetes is going to provision it. And Kubernetes will talk to the virtual machines or nodes through kubelet. Now, assume that this virtual machine is down. Example, this virtual machine is down. Okay, there's some problem with this. Automatically, what happens if the heartbeats are not coming from that virtual machine to Kubernetes, then Kubernetes understands that this virtual machine is down. In that, there are two instances are running, 1 and 5. Automatically, it is going to provision that 1 and 5 into other virtual machines. For example, then it says, okay, let me provision here. This 1 should go to here. Okay, similarly, let 5 should come here. For example, 5 should come here. So at any point of time, it makes sure that if you want to launch this application 5 instances, at any point of time, it will make sure that 5 instances will be running in virtual machine. Any failure, automatically it is going to provision into other virtual machines. Or one VM is down, automatically Kubernetes can launch one more VM. Actually, see, in the real time, what happens if something goes wrong, Kubernetes is capable of, if Docker instances are down, Kubernetes can launch those Docker instances in the same VM or different VMs. Actually. So that is the main purpose of going for Kubernetes. So this is Pivotal Cloud Foundry, right? I logged into Pivotal Cloud Foundry. So there is my organization name, you can see. When you create a account in PCF, I told you, PCF account, it comes with, it not ask you any payment details initially. It not ask you any payment details initially. 1 year of free account is available, right? Now, if you see this, I have one organization. Inside that, there's a development. Can you see there's a development? There are few applications are already running here. Not running, few applications already deployed, right? This is the Pivotal Cloud Foundry. Once again, I'll come back to that. Actually, I'll tell you what is the layers like IaaS, we discuss IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, those things we'll discuss. Now, if I take this application, for example, there's a Cook one application is already there, right? Let me select this application, Cook. Here, there is a concept of scaling. So we can scale number of instances. Currently, it is running only one instance. If you see here development, Cook is having only one instance. If I say Cook here, then if you observe, there is a scale. Enable auto scaling, similarly, there is a scale. Suppose if I say scale, just say scale, increase number of instances, I'll say 4 instances here. So instances 4. If I say number of instances 4, and if I say apply changes, tell me what happens. This Cook application, Cook is nothing but one Spring Boot application. Just understand, this is one Spring Boot application. By giving number of instances 5, and when I say apply changes, 5 instances of this application will get started. Zoom recording. Yeah. So if I say kubectl version, see here I told you version, it will display some client version, server version like this, right? So this is the command line tool for Kubernetes. Now, as per the demo here, kubectl create deployment simple REST API image JBoss Ramana / microservices simple. Now, if you see this JBoss Ramana microservices is in the Docker Hub. I am referring to Docker Hub, JBoss Ramana microservices. So this is JBoss Ramana microservices, Docker Hub. In that, there are 2 images you can see, other than simple images. So what is the command we are using here? The command is kubectl create deployment, some deployment name, image is this. You know what this will do deployment? It will download this image. You need not give Docker command. You see here in the kubelet, you can see here kubectl that internally using Docker commands. Docker pull everything. We are directly giving kubectl create a deployment, some deployment name. Then image, you have to mention the image. So this will download this particular image, simple image. Then it will push that application into pod. But currently we have not given how many instances has to run. By default, the replicas is only 1. So it will be running in 1 instance actually. That is the default. Okay. So what I'll do, let me take this command, kubectl, copy this command. My Shaker, you can try this, Shaker. Actually, you are able to access this, Shaker. You are getting this microservices document. Shaker, can you confirm?
Yes, Raman, I can see that document. I will pull
you are
from
able
the
to access from your system, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now you try this command, kubectl create deployment, simple. I'll say copy here. Then let me run this here. Let me run this. You know what will happen? Enter. Automatically you can see deployment apps, simple REST API created. Simple REST API created. So what I can do here, there is one command here, get deployment get all -o wide. You know, this will give you complete description actually. See, if I copy this command here, copy this command, enter. Now see here, what it is showing actually here, just observe this. There is a name of the application. You can see name of the application, pod. Can you see pod? This is the name of the application. Deployment application, replica set application, simple REST API 1. That means what? When you said deployment, while deploying, we have not mentioned any number of replicas. That means only one replica. It is having some information here. So desired is 1, right? Currently 1 is running. That means where it is running inside the pod. Finally, the simple REST API, this container is available in the pod here. Right? It's running, status is running. So this one command you can see, kubectl create deployment. What it will do? It will create a deployment. It will create a replicas. Then based on the number of replicas, it will be launched in the pod. Pod internally launches in the container. But service, there is not, service is showing some Kubernetes, but it is not showing anything for simple REST API. Service is used to expose this application to outer world. Like when you say Docker run command we are giving, right? Like Docker run -p port forwarding. Using some port we are exposing to outer world, right? So we need to give a command now, one more command called kubectl expose deployment. See this simple REST API, whatever you are given this, expose this deployment to the outer world with a port number 8080, and the type of the service is load balancer. So let me try this command now. Go to command prompt and run the example. Let me run this. Enter. It says service simple REST API is exposed. Initially we created deployment. Now we are exposing the deployment. So created the deployment, exposed the deployment. That means this deployment is available for the outer world with this IP address load balancer and port number 88. Now once again, if I try kubectl get all -o wide means it is going to give all the services, right? When you press enter here, now see this, everything remains same, but in the service you can see simple REST API, load balancer IP address, it is a cluster IP address, but external world it is available as localhost, port number 88. Now see here, the interesting point I tell you. Actual application is running in this IP address here, 10.1.0.64, where our application is running here. But to access this application, we need to access through load balancer. Load balancer, localhost 88. So what is the advantage of this? Tell me now. So the application is running here. One instance of the application is running, but there is one more called LB here. See, there is LB is created, load balancer, right? So any request must comes to LB. So request must comes to LB. LB will send that request to this instance. This is where our simple service is running. Say. So this is where simple service is running. You know what is the advantage of this now? What is the advantage of this? If there is one more instance of simple service, you have one more instance of simple service like this, right? One more instance of simple service. Still, LB remains same. This LB can do load balancing to the simple service, right? Now see here. So there's another instance of simple service. Simple when we develop microservice architecture, there I said load balancer. Any request comes load balancer. Load balancer can distribute the load to any one of these instances, right? So whenever we created service, while creating a service, kubectl expose here, kubectl expose deployment is okay. Then expose, there is another command we are given. Kubectl get all OD. Okay, kubectl expose deployment. Can you see expose deployment? Type is load balancer. Because we mentioned load balancer, one more load balancer will be there. Any request comes load balancer. Load balancer will send that request to actual IP address. So as per this load balancer, this is the load balancer for the simple REST service. This is a load balancer that internally makes a call to simple service, which is running on 10.1. 0.64. That is the IP address of the container. Right? Now, advantage I told you. If you add one more instance of simple service, same thing, request comes to LB, LB can do load balancing. Like that, we can have any number of simple services. But we are not directly calling the application which is running in the container, right? We are calling one more called load balance. Load balance internally will manage the request, right? So that is information. If you want to get any information, you can say get all kubectl, get all -o wide. It is going to give you complete information. What are the things are running. Now to test this application, what we can do, I have done up to these two steps, right? Simple service. How do you test it? Actually, it is running on 8080 port. Let me go to browser, type localhost :8080. Some error is coming because after that you have to give /simple. Actually, it is given in the documentation here. How to access this application? We have to give /simple. There is no /context path, /simple. I got presentation type, business type, data type. So output, I got it, right? Now let me try with kubectl create deployment other REST API. Similarly, expose both these two lines. I'll run it. Okay, so let me once again run these two. Oh, not copied. Okay, so let me copy this command prompt, paste it. Enter. Now here, other REST API is created, and that is exposed. If it is exposed only, we can access it. Now once again, if I say get kubectl get all -o wide, it will give you complete description. Now here, there are two services are running. There are two deployment, and each deployment has only one replica, only one instance, and that is running inside the pod. So simple service in the pod is running in 10.1.0.64 IP address. Other service in the pod is running here, and there is a load balancer for simple REST API is this. Localhost 8080. There is a load balancer for other REST APIs 8081. Right? You are very clear. See, load balancer is not the application. Load balancer is running separately. That is one instance. Your application is running as a separate instance. If there are multiple instances of the same application also, any request comes to load balancer. Always we say localhost 8080. For example, if it is simple service, or localhost 8081. But backend, it is going to connect to the application which is running, right? Now, if I want to test this application, go to browser. So what is given here? Tell me, localhost 8081/other. Okay. So let me try localhost 8081/other. See the output now. Presentation type, business type, data type, called from other service. That means if I go to the application, if I go to GitHub, simple service code I'll show you. Source, main, right? Inside the web, controller what is written, see, in the controller what is written, it says presentation type. So if I go back, this internally calls service. Inside the service, it returns, see here, service, it returns business type. That's why we are getting presentation type, business type, data type. Similarly, so if I go to, right, the other service, let me open the lab to other service. Here in the source main, okay, let me show the code actually. Other controller. See, in the other controller, what we are doing actually, we are calling REST template get for object, simple REST API, 8080/simple. Whatever response is coming, that we are adding with call from other service. That is why the output is coming like this. So all of you see the interesting point here. REST template get for object, we are giving simple REST API. In the other service, I am referring to other service. We are given simple REST API. This is the service name, right? Deployment name. So when we deployed the application, there we gave, what is the name we gave? Actually, it is simple REST API. So that we are referring, simple REST API. 8080. 8080 is the load balancer, right? So here, 8080 is where load balance is running. We are referring to this load balance. We are not referring to any of the instance. So that if the instance is changed, as long as the load balancer is same, load balance is same, we need not to modify our code actually. So this example, instead of using Eureka server, Normally we use Eureka server, right? The services are registered to Eureka server. That example you have seen now. Now the Kubernetes itself is providing a service registry. That is why whenever we are doing deployment, we are explicitly mentioning at the time of deployment, we are mentioning what is the name of the service, right? Here, create deployment. This is like a name of the service. Similarly, other REST API. So that inside the code, we can directly use that service name, right? Now, let me show you interesting point here. Okay. So when I say, okay, when I say get all OID, go wide, then we are getting simple services running in how many instances? Tell me. Only one instance here. Replicas. Replicas is where we mentioned at the time of deployment, if the replicas are not given, only one instance. So simple service one instance, other service one instance. That is running inside the pod. Simple service one instance is running, other service is running. But to access this, there's a load balancer that is called service. Service, there's a load balancer. Actual IP address of load balancer is this, but external IP address we have given localhost. That's why we are accessing localhost 8080. But this internally calling this IP address with 8080. That internally hitting simple service here. Okay. Now, if I want to scale, just here, can you see this command? Actually, I'll show you one command here. kubectl auto scale deployment simple REST API. Okay, let me. So how many max is 5 instances, CPU percentage. Okay, can you see this command molecule? kubectl scale deployment simple REST API replicas 3. So the default replica is 1. That's what we have seen. If I say replicas 3, tell me what will happen. Anybody tell me what will happen if I say kubectl scale deployment simple REST API -- replicas 3. Tell me what will happen. kubectl scale deployment simple REST API. Simple REST API is the deployment name, right? We are using deployment name simple REST API. Replicas 3. Default replicas is 1. If I say 3, what will happen? Right? So all of you got some idea here.